Before the first footprint was ever pressed into the soil of our world, before human hands shaped tools or built cities, before the first thought of civilization existed, the Earth belonged to giants. It was the late Jurassic, a world saturated with heat, moisture, and life so ancient it feels like myth. Continents were still drifting, torn apart by fire beneath the crust. Thunderstorms marched across the horizon like armies. The air itself was heavier, thicker, a cradle for creatures so immense they seemed sculpted from the bones of mountains. Towering above all, the Brachiosaurus stretched its long neck into canopies that swayed like emerald oceans. Its footsteps were slow, like the ticking of a primeval clock. Around it, forests of cycads and ginkgos whispered in winds older than human memory. On the open plains, stegosaur herds grazed, their plates shimmering as the sun climbed through layers of fog. Each step of these creatures made the earth tremble, as though the ground acknowledged their passing. Predators stalked the edges of this world. Allosaurus, lean and relentless, moved like shadows with teeth. They hunted in packs, weaving through the trees with the precision of ancient instinct. Their roars echoed across canyons carved long before humans would ever name them. Rivers ran wide and violent, fed by mountains still being born. Amphibians larger than wolves crawled along riverbeds. Turtles with shells as thick as shields floated silently beneath the surface. Above, the sky was never quiet. Pterosaurs soared in enormous circles, riding warm currents that rose from volcanic plains. Theirs was a sky that belonged to no bird, only to wings of leather and bone. Their shadows passed over herds and hunters alike, reminders that in this world, power existed in every direction. And yet, even in such abundance, the earth was restless. Volcanoes belched smoke into the sky. Lava crawled across the plains, writing red scars across the landscape. This was a planet still in its youth. Wild, unfinished, unpredictable. Every creature in this ancient world moved with purpose, as if guided by a silent rhythm that pulsed beneath the ground. There were no cities, no wars, no language. Only hunger, survival, birth, death. A harmony raw and unbroken. But in the midst of this harmony, something new was forming. The first seeds of catastrophe, small at first, invisible, were already taking shape deep within the Earth's crust. And one day, that Earth would speak in fire. The world shifted long before the dinosaurs ever sensed danger. Far beneath their feet, tectonic plates pushed and tore at one another, breathing fire through cracks in the crust. Volcanoes erupted in long chains, painting the sky in ash and molten light. But to the giants of the Jurassic, this was simply life, the earth roaring as it shaped itself. On the eastern coasts of the great continent Gondwana, storms gathered with a fury no creature could predict. Clouds spun like dark oceans above dense jungles. Lightning danced across the canopy, illuminating herds of Camarasaurus as they moved slowly toward safer ground. Rain hammered the leaves, waterfalls burst from the cliffs, and rivers rose until they devoured entire forests. Still, life pushed forward. In the marshlands, small predatory dinosaurs like Ceratosaurus hunted in the tall reeds. Each footstep was a careful movement in water thick with mud and life. Their eyes cut through the fog, tracking the ripples on the surface. Ripples made by fish ancient and armored, descendants of worlds long gone. Deeper in the forests, the nights told a different story. This was the realm of the nocturnal hunters, creatures built for silence. Delicate, feathered dinosaurs emerged from the shadows. Their feathers shimmered in moonlight, hints of colors that would one day give birth to birds. They darted between ferns and branches, their calls soft, rhythmic, almost musical. In these moments, the forest felt almost human, filled with voices, whispers, and secret movement. But no creature owned the night like the Allosaurus. Its footsteps pressed into the damp earth with measured force. Each breath was a cloud in the cold air, each movement a reminder of the raw hierarchy that defined this era. It hunted not out of anger, but out of necessity, a predator formed by the same forces that forged mountains and storms. As dawn broke, light spilled across the horizon like molten gold. Mist rose from the valleys. The world awakened in one slow breath. And there, standing against the rising sun, were the true monarchs of the land, the giant sauropods. Their bodies moved like living landforms, necks stretching toward the heavens, tails sweeping the ground like ancient whips. Their footsteps carved paths through forests, paths that would one day be fossilized in stone and discovered by creatures not yet imagined. Everything in this world felt eternal, unchanging, indestructible. But deep in the sky, far beyond the reach of wings and cloud, another journey had begun. A fragment of ancient stone, born from the shattering of worlds, had started drifting toward Earth. It was small then, harmless, just another wanderer in the dark. But gravity remembers everything, and the Earth was calling. It began as a whisper in the cosmos, a distant speck of stone, turning slowly in the cold dark. For millions of years, it drifted unnoticed, a relic of shattered planets, carrying the memory of collisions older than time itself. But as the ages passed, its path bent. Gravity pulled it closer to a blue world teeming with life. The dinosaurs below had no reason to look upward. Their eyes were trained on the forests, the rivers, the predators that stalked the brush. They did not know the sky could betray them. The earth turned, the seasons shifted. Life continued with its eternal rhythm. On the vast floodplains of what would one day become North America, herds of Diplodocus moved in slow, undulating waves. Their tails cracked like thunder when they felt threatened, echoing across the valley with the force of breaking air. Nearby, the young forests were alive with movement. Small raptors, agile, intelligent, alert, raced between the trees, communicating with high-pitched calls. They hunted cooperatively, weaving through roots and ferns with a precision that hinted at minds sharper than instinct alone. At the edges of the wetlands, gigantic crocodile ancestors slid silently beneath the surface. Their eyes broke the water in pairs, still, cold, patient. They had survived countless ages before the dinosaurs, and they would survive long after them. But survival has limits. High above, the sky began to change. It started subtly. A faint streak of light appeared at the edge of the horizon, so distant and thin that no creature noticed. It grew brighter as the days passed, crossing the heavens like a wandering scar. Then the earth began to tremble. Not from footsteps, not from storms, but from something deep, a frequency the animals felt in their bones. The Allosaurus paused mid-hunt. The sauropods lifted their massive heads. The smaller feathered creatures froze, their calls falling silent in the thick air. Something was wrong. Waves in the lakes rose without wind. Bird ancestors took flight in chaotic spirals. The insects, those tiny prophets of disaster, disappeared beneath bark and soil. And on the darkest night the world had seen, the streak in the sky became a fire. The asteroid had entered the atmosphere. For a moment, the heavens glowed as if dawn had arrived early. But the light was wrong. Too bright. Too violent. Too fast. The air screamed. Clouds ignited. Atmosphere tore open as the stone descended with the fury of collapsed stars. In that frozen second before the world shattered, every creature stood silent, as if the earth itself knew that an age was ending. And then the sky fell. The impact was not a sound. It was an ending. In an instant, the asteroid, a mountain of ancient stone, struck the earth with a force beyond imagination. The ground did not shake, it folded. The oceans did not roar. They exploded upward in towers of steam and shattered water. A flash brighter than 1,000 suns erased the horizon. Forests within hundreds of kilometers turned to ash before the sound could even be heard. Animals vanished in silhouettes, burned into the air itself. The shockwave tore across the land, moving faster than any creature could run. Trees bent, snapped, then atomized. The soil lifted and blew away like dust. Everything that breathed was swallowed by the furnace wind. But the devastation did not end with impact. It began. From the crater, molten rock was hurled into the atmosphere, circling the globe before falling back as blazing fragments of the planet itself. A rain of fire, continuous, merciless, endless. Night and day blended into red. The skies burned. The oceans boiled. Lightning struck from clouds of soot. Entire continents glowed beneath a blanket of flame. Those who survived the first earthquake, the first fires, the first shockwave, faced a dying world. Darkness spread across the planet. The sun became a distant memory, blocked by ash, dust, and sulfur. Temperatures plummeted. Plants withered. Food chains collapsed like crumbling pillars. The giants fell first. Sauropods, once the monarchs of the land, wandered landscapes stripped of leaves and life. Their massive bodies, made for abundance, could not endure famine. One by one, they collapsed, their heavy bodies sinking into the cooling ash. Predators followed. Allosaurus, once fierce and unstoppable, starved as their prey vanished. Their roars faded, lost in a world that no longer echoed life. Even the skies fell silent. Pterosaurs, their wings built for warm currents and open air, found only darkness and cold. Their reign ended in stillness. But beneath the ground, beneath the roots, beneath the rocks, life whispered. Tiny mammals, furred, fast, and fiercely resilient, waited in burrows where the fire could not reach. Insects crawled through the cracks in the soil. Frogs clung to pockets of water. Turtles buried themselves in mud. Creatures overlooked by giants held on as the world remade itself. Years passed. The ash slowly settled. Light returned in thin beams. Rain fell, first black, then gray, then clear. Plants sprouted through the scorched ground, pushing aside the soot of an age gone forever. and with them came new breath. The mammals emerged first, small but determined. Hunger forced them to explore, to grow, to evolve. Where giants had once ruled, nimble creatures now darted among young forests. A world of colossi became a world of opportunity. The age of dinosaurs had ended, but life always finds its way forward. From these shadows, from these survivors, from these fragile beginnings, a new future began to unfold. Millions of years later, some of their descendants would stand upright, look at ancient bones buried in stone, and wonder what came before them. Some would give names to the monsters of old. Some would build museums to hold their memory. And some would tell their stories. Stories like this one. Stories that remind us that the Earth is ancient, alive, and always changing. The dinosaurs did not vanish in vain. Their world ended, but from their ashes, ours began. And if you want more untold stories from the ancient past, subscribe to Legacy Untold, where history breathes again.